Hello and welcome. I'm Rick Titus, and this is the Robinson Restoration and Service Newsroom. Yep, we've got some updates for you, some things to talk about, so let's jump right on in. Again, my name is Rick, and you can always put questions to me at their website at rrstexasusa.com, and we will listen to whatever questions you've got, do our best to answer them. That said, a few things I want to talk about. We know this is the beginning of the car show season. To that end, we just want to make sure everyone gets out and has a good time. I've had the good fortune of going to an all VW show, earlier Volkswagens, everything from the buses to the pickups to of course the Beetles and some of the 411 squarebacks, things of that nature. Just a stunning show held in Boulder City, Nevada. Great turnout, some good looking stuff. A little shocking on where the values have gone. These things aren't cheap anymore. That party's definitely over. But still a good collector car, and one that you can get in far more reasonably than a lot of other equipment that's out there. That was a good show, good turnout, had a lot of fun at that. And then just attended the 38th annual, of course, Fabulous Fords Forever. That's an event put on by John Kleinert, co-hosted with Ford Motor Company. And that's in Irwindale, California. That's a Southern California venue that includes not only a circle track that a lot of racing goes on and drifting, but it also includes an 8th mile drag strip. And this year, for the first time, they included drag racing as part of the Fabulous Fords Forever. I didn't get an exact count yet, but I got to tell you, there had to be close to 2,000 cars there. It was Fords Forever. I get what they mean by the name, but some great looking products and a lot of fun. Of course, Salim was there with his new car. The Shelby was being talked about, the new Shelby American version of their Super Snake was there. And Ford had a great display for future Mustangs, including some of their upcoming racing versions as well that will be available. I think GT4 is that class. And a lot of good product displays. Just a good show to go to. Now, for me, it worked out pretty good because I got to go there as a VIP just because of my racing background with Ford from the 80s and 90s. But I was there with Lynn St. James. Remember, that lady qualified at Indianapolis 500 several times, driving with Dick Simon. And then, of course, Linda Vaughn, who really is the first lady of motorsports. You know as Miss Hirsch Shifter, but what a great lady. Just a lot of fun to talk to. Carol Shelby's widow, Chloe Shelby, was there, and always fun to catch up with her as well. Got to talk to Lynn a little bit more, St. James, more than I ever have in the past. Of course, the OVC guys, the original Venice Crew guys, many of the guys who built the original 65 Shelby R model race car, GT350 R model Mustangs. Jim Marietta and Ted Sutton were there, so I love catching up with those guys. I've been involved with that car, and they had a car on display as well. The list went on and on. One of the brothers of Strop, Bill Strop, but if you know off-road racing at all, you know that Bill Strop, part of the Jones, teamed up to win a lot of stuff. They pretty much owned the Baja races, and just a lot of celebrities. And I got to meet a current driver for Ford, and that is a guy named Joey Hand. Now, I've respected Joey for quite a while now, but it was a good chance to meet him. He's now a Ford factory signed driver, has won Le Mans for Ford in a Ford GT, and is still very, very involved, and he will be doing more racing this year with Ford in some other classes. Good guy. He is a cat that we remember from a very vicious BMW IMSA race flip, where he hit some pavement he didn't see in the grass. It tripped the BMW 3 Series up on its nose, and it proceeded to cartwheel. Pretty dramatic stuff. It then landed on its roof, slid across the track up against the guardrails on the other side, and while he was hanging there, Joey could smell the fuel pouring out of the fuel cell. So he was thinking, oh, great, survived the shunt. Hope I survived the fire. Fortunately, they got him out and there was no fire. But what I was anxious to pick on him about was, I know that after he survived that, they took him to the hospital, came out okay. He went to Steak and Shakes, which is a very big chain back east, A little fewer or less of those out here on the West Coast, but starting to get a foothold here as well. He went there for what? I said, well, was that like your last summer? He goes, no, I ate like a condemned man, and that was my first supper, let me tell you. But I said, I know you had a milkshake, but everyone wants to know what flavor did you choose as your celebratory milkshake, and it turned out to be vanilla, which got thumbs up for me because I'm a vanilla guy. So I appreciated that, but just a good guy to kind of trade stories, and in particular, the comparisons between endurance racing from when my father won the Daytona 24-hour race 2 years in a row in the Trans Am division, 68 and 69, when we won it in 87, driving for Celine, myself and Steve Celine, some really great teammates, guest teammates coming in, Pete Halsmer, Scott Pruitt, Skeeter McKitterick, Parnelli Jones, George Fulmer, depending which races they would come in. And then what Joey sees is the strategy now. When my father won those races, back then, the domestic iron, not so much the Porsches, and this is how Porsche gained a lot of footprint, would back off their lap times, their qualifying lap times, by about 3 seconds a lap, which is a lot, but that's how you preserve, back then, a domestic V8. This is how you keep that car working. The gearbox differentials in the American cars generally not as strong as some of that stuff coming out of Europe, mostly because we have more brute horsepower and the torque, which is one of their racing advantages. Porsches didn't have to back off that hard because they build their engines with needle bearings, and they're just absolutely designed to go ahead and buzz 8,000 RPM for 24 hours. You try to do that back in the 60s with a domestic engine. I will say by 87, 86, 87, 88, when Steve and I were contending the championship, we didn't buzz the car much above 6,000 RPM, which frankly, the Mustang with that kind of gearing is about all you're going to get in the way of forward motion anyway, because we wanted it, we were more after the gas mileage. The further we could keep the pit stops apart, the better. So that's the direction we worked in. And now I'm talking to Joey, he goes, Rick, when it goes green, we're flat out for 24 hours. And that's the current Mustang with the 180-degree crankshaft, and they just haul ass. I mean, that's the bottom line. They get after it. Now, if you're going to pull your toy out, whether that's a street rod or a muscle car or a collector car, post-war, current war, remember, it's been sitting all winter. And though that sounds like, well, so what? That shouldn't have worn out anything. You'd be amazed at what it does wear out. Coolant actually goes bad. The antifreeze in a vehicle will, in fact, sour and not be nearly as effective. You basically should have been using just bad water at that point. So you want that checked. Brake fluid lowers its boiling temperature all the time. Every month, what used to be 650 or 550 brake fluid or boiling point gets lower every month. So that's something you want to get after. Of course, you want to look at the tires. You want to make sure the differential hasn't leaked anything or the transmission leaked anything. There's just a bunch of safety issues, and I've really come to respect what Robinson Restoration there and Service does in Denton, Texas, just outside of Dallas. They have a full-on safety inspection for those kind of cars because they know what to look for. If you were to take those kind of collector cars to a standard dealership or even an independent repair shop, they're not going to know what the failings or possible failings of these products are. That's what's great about working with Robinson. They know these cars well, and I've seen their safety inspection and the procedures and the test drive afterwards. So you know you've got a car that's capable of going out there and getting you home. I want to mention something that's not a pleasant thing to talk about, but people get complacent because of today's safety. Oh my gosh, we got all these airbags and collapsible columns and impact mapping and shear points and all of that great stuff. Yeah, but cars from the 50s, 60s, and 70s didn't. So they don't crash nearly as well, at least as it concerns the occupants, as today's new cars. So to have someone that really knows what they're looking for, take a good hard look at it, and it's not a real expensive service, and they can point some things out to you that you might be surprised. Okay, one last rant. You know, there's been a lot of talk on television about these squatters, and it's a pretty awful thing where these people think they can come in and literally declare ownership, not just live in a vacant house, but declare ownership of it in a fairly snotty way. It's my house now. Well, you paid nothing for it, and the owner's been paying the bills. So squatters has become a big issue. There are some laws changing, so make that a less desirable hobby for some, or even a profession for many. I think we have dashboard squatters. Just driving to LA from Vegas this last weekend, I just got so tired of all the invasive driving assistance. I don't need you to keep it in the lane for me. I don't need you to shut off the power as I get closer to another car. I don't need you trying to steer the vehicle for me. Let me drive my car. I know what I want to do and I know how to do it. But this stuff just comes in, and if you got no choice, it just takes over your possession of your vehicle. Now, this is the net result of a lot of talented engineers at all the car companies sitting around trying to invent new electronic gadgets to help the brochure. Well, guess what? I suspect most of these cars today will go to their graves and less than half of all of that stuff will have been engaged. We don't need all this goop. We don't want all this goop. And I really wish these cats would focus their energy somewhere else in making better products, not adding more stuff to that dashboard. The knobs have gotten very small. I remember when I first got involved with Ford Motor Company, we bragged about how you could work all the heater controls, HVAC, floor heat, seats, everything with your gloves on, your winter gloves on for back east. Boy, you're not going to do that today. You wear a winter glove and try to punch a control item, you're going to turn on 3 things and turn off 4. It's ridiculous. It's gotten out of control. It's made everything much smaller and harder to relate to. I know there's the nav screen, and everyone can't wait to, until they're 24 inches big. And trust me, they're heading that way. But I still like having control of what I want on and what I want off. And this thing forces the headlights on me every time I start my F-150. On and on and on. I could do an hour on this. I really wish these cats, and I'm proud of you of your Purdue University electronics engineering degree. That's all great stuff. I have several friends that have them as well. But it doesn't mean you got to be inventing a new gizmo every week. So that's kind of our update from the newsroom for now. Again, we're brought to you by Robinson Restoration and Service. And God, what a great company. I'm so proud to be associated with them. And I've been associated with some pretty good companies. General Tire, Ford Motor Company. Got a pretty good background there. And of course, some of the big car magazines. But I got to say, as an independent shop, although it doesn't look too independent when you see it, it's huge. They work on a lot of cars. They do a heck of a job. And they have integrity plus, a very, very important thing to have when you're dealing with this kind of stuff. And if you're getting ready to go to auction and buy a car, man, talk to them. Make sure you know what to look for. You can even hire one of their people to go for the day and make sure the car you're buying isn't a ripoff. Well, I look forward to talking to you next week, and thanks for joining us, and we'll talk real soon. Wish you open roads and safe motoring.